How else could 2 months' salary last forever? A diamond is forever. De Beers.
The story of diamonds is deeply intertwined with the history of India. Diamonds were first discovered in India in 400 BC. We had a monopoly over diamond mining for 2000 years. And even today, 90% of diamonds that are set in jewelry to wear are processed in India. Now, in the year 2018, De Beers launched its own lab-grown diamond brand Lightbox. And on 8th May 2025, the news came out that De Beers Group would be withdrawing the Lightbox brand. So over this short 6-year window, the supply of lab-grown diamonds has grown 6x. That is a 50% annual growth rate in the supply of lab-grown diamonds. This increase in the supply of lab-grown diamonds has resulted in the price declining by 15 times, and it has diverged away from the pricing of natural diamonds. Even for De Beers Group, what was happening in the lab-grown diamond world was a distraction from them focusing on their core business of natural diamonds. And in today's breakdown, I'm going to explain to you how diamonds were not always forever, and you, I, and everyone else have been sold this diamonds are forever statement as part of a company's marketing stunt. Let's get right into it. At Breakdown, we'd like to give a shout out to Zerodha. We're a part of Zerodha's 01 media network. We deeply appreciate the support that Team Zerodha provides us. And with this, we go back to Breakdown. So here's a question for you. Why is it that gold was found in the Indus Valley civilization, in the Roman Empire, and in the Aztec Empire at 3 different points in history, but diamonds have never been found? The simple answer is that gold was discovered in 4000 BC. Diamonds were discovered for the first time in 400 BC in India. Gold has always had value as a currency, as a symbol of power, and a store of wealth. On the other hand, diamonds have not had as much utility until as recently as 1947. Now, the story of diamonds is that they were originally found in India, in modern Arunachal Pradesh or Telangana, and they went by the name Golconda stone because the area where they were found was called Golconda back in those days. Diamonds had a role in India primarily from a trading perspective, and they were also used in the courts of the Mughal emperors as a means for them to showcase their wealth and power. India remained the only source of diamonds until in about 1700 AD, 2000 years later, that diamonds were discovered in a small scale in Brazil. But the real turning point was in 1867 in South Africa, when a 15-year-old boy called Jacob Erasmus managed to find real natural diamonds lying in a river stream, and that triggered the diamond rush. South Africa went through a crazy period from 1867 to the early 1900s, and one company emerged here called De Beers Group, which went about the activity of acquiring a large number of natural diamond mines. And at its peak, De Beers Group cornered 90% of the world's supply of natural diamonds. The turning point for De Beers Group was a depression that hit before World War II. Whatever little diamond sales that they had in the 1930s completely fell off the cliff because people in America just did not have money, jobs, homes, anything. So De Beers Group said, we don't have a product problem. Diamonds as a product are great, but we have a positioning problem which we need to solve. And to solve this positioning problem, they hired the legendary marketing agency from Philadelphia, N.W. Iyer & Sons. Now, for those of you who've really studied history, you would know that this particular marketing agency is known for one famous or notorious reason. They came up with the line, "I'd walk a mile for Camel." Camel was a cigarette brand in the USA in the 1930s, and Camel is well known globally for having popularized the concept of smoking as a social activity, and even sometimes for pregnant women. Now, there is one young man, Francis, in the N.W. Iyer & Sons marketing team who came up with a 4-word slogan that has changed the world forever. A diamond is forever. And by the way, the history books do a terrible job here because they go and tell the rest of the world, this 4-word slogan has changed the world. It's not just this 4-word slogan, it was the complete marketing campaign that followed after this that resulted in diamond sales taking off like wildfire. Number 1, the De Beers Group gifted Queen Elizabeth, the ruler of England, a diamond and made sure that she wore it on formal occasions. De Beers Group also distributed diamonds to popular celebrities in the cinema and made sure that whenever they were being photographed, the diamond was clearly visible. They even organized radio talk shows and published advertorials in print, remember this is before the TV era, to make sure that the word got out, a diamond is forever. It is because of this one campaign in USA, and a lot more of course, that sales of diamonds went up from $23 million in 1939 to $2.1 billion in 1979. In the 1940s, about 10% of brides in America received a diamond engagement ring. That number had become 80% by the 1970s. And this is not just isolated to the USA. Even as far out as Japan, the craze of diamonds had taken over. So in the 1960s, about 5% of brides in Japan received a diamond ring. This was 27% by the 1970s and 60% by 1961. And this is a textbook example of marketing over minds. If you position your product incredibly well, your product will just sell. The first ever recorded diamond engagement ring in history was given in 1477 AD by Archduke Ferdinand of Austria to Mary of Burgundy. Now forget these two people, just remember that it's our ancestors, the Indian craftsmen, who set the first natural diamond in gold jewelry to produce the first engagement ring that was given to someone. That was history. What about today? So there are a total of 13 lakh people in India who are employed directly or indirectly in the diamond industry. And you'd be amazed to know 8 lakh of those reside in the city of Surat. The export of diamonds contributes to about 3.5 to 4% of all of our non-services exports. Non-services exports means exports of products. The diamond is mined, it's graded, it's cut, it's polished, it's set in the jewelry, and it's sold. When you leave aside mining and grading, 90% of all natural diamonds that are ultimately set in jewelry are processed at more than one stage in India. And by the way, these figures also translate to material wealth creation. Let's quickly look at some of the listed companies in India that are involved in the production of diamond jewelry. You have Tata Group's Titan, you have Kalyan Jewelers, you have PC Jewelers, and Senco Gold and Diamonds. And there's a very long list of family-owned large diamond businesses for which we don't have the data. And this is why I tell people the story of diamonds is deeply intertwined with India's history, and therefore the future of diamonds is going to be deeply intertwined with our future as a nation. First, it's very important to understand the difference between natural diamonds and LGDs. There are 4 criteria based on which a diamond is scored: carat, cut, clarity, and color. Carat refers to the weight of the diamond. Naturally, a heavier diamond is going to be more expensive because it is larger and therefore more visually appealing. So the cut refers to how symmetric the diamond is after the artisan or the craftsman has worked on this piece of diamond. And remember that the artisan is actually wearing microscopic glasses to make sure that every small edge is smoothed out perfectly to give you the shine. Now, Darius Mehta, who is the founder of True Diamonds, told me it is the cut of the diamond that contributes the most to the sparkle that helps you identify a diamond at a large distance. Clarity means how transparent the diamond is and whether it has any blemishes or defects inside the diamond. And finally, the color. You can find naturally occurring white diamonds, blue diamonds, pink diamonds, and black diamonds. Typically, all colors apart from white diamonds tend to be rarer and therefore more expensive. Now, here's the tricky part. A lab-grown diamond is chemically, optically, and physically identical to a natural diamond. You need to go to a very well-equipped gemological lab that is properly certified to be able to identify where there is a lab-grown diamond and where there is a natural diamond. Let's understand the story of how lab-grown diamonds came into being. All the way back in 1954, at General Electric's GE's research lab in the USA, they created the first lab-grown diamond. But these lab-grown diamonds were big, they did not have the right color for jewelry, but they were ready for prime time in industrial use. Now, General Electric had a very clear reason for spending a large amount of money to do research and development to create lab-grown diamonds. The simple incentive for them is that they did not want to be dependent on the supply of natural diamonds. They wanted to have their own diamond supply, which would allow them to scale their industrial cutting and tools business. And full credit to General Electric, 16 years after they came up with the first lab-grown diamond in Project Superpower, they came back with the first jewelry-ready lab-grown diamonds. It could be set in jewelry, but it was not ready to be sold in jewelry. Now, General Electric used a process called high pressure, high temperature to create these lab-grown diamonds. By the 1980s, there was a new process called CVD, chemical vapor depositation, that was producing better quality diamonds. And by 1985, it was very clear that HPHT was ready for industrial tooling. CVD was the process to build jewelry-ready lab-grown diamonds. But it would take many more years, all the way until 2010, when the industry started to create CVD reactors. The CVD reactor allowed you to create multi-carat lab-grown diamonds in parallel and at scale. And it is in 2012 that for the first time, we got a company selling lab-grown diamonds in jewelry. Today, the company is called Pure Grown Diamonds. At the time, it was called Genesis. In 2018, De Beers Group launched its own lab-grown diamond brand called Lightbox, and Alrosa's president, Andre, ended up leaving to start his own lab-grown diamond brand. And if you are in an industry where the two players who control 60% of the market decide to launch a lab-grown diamond venture, it's a clear indicator to you that the time for lab-grown diamonds is now. And that is exactly what happened. In 2017, we had two brands start to sell lab-grown diamonds, Fiona Diamonds and Varnia. In June 2025, there are 37 independent startups that are selling lab-grown diamonds in India, some of whom have raised venture capital money. Almost every major jewelry manufacturer in India has launched a sub-brand focused on lab-grown diamonds. The most memorable insight that Darius shared with me, which is that lab-grown diamonds today do not have a product problem, they have a positioning problem. And the mistake that a number of incumbents and startups are making is they are positioning the lab-grown diamond like the Tata Nano. The mistake in hindsight that Tata Group made with the Nano is they sold it as the small car for your family versus selling it as the step up from a two-wheeler to a four-wheeler. The same analogy in diamond jewelry is that lab-grown diamonds is not the cheaper version of natural diamonds. It is a stepping stone on your journey to eventually purchase that natural diamond. Now, Darius was also very kind to share some of the data that his company has with us. You'd be amazed to know that the average order value for a lab-grown diamond sold via True Diamonds is 1 lakh rupees. So lab-grown diamonds are not really affordable. They are attainable by way more people in India as compared to natural diamonds. A lot of the lab-grown diamond purchases are happening outside of the fine jewelry use case. There is sports jewelry, there is casual wear jewelry, which are emerging as segments. There is an online first audience. These people view the diamonds online and come offline to a True Diamond or lab-grown diamond store to make the purchase. And lab-grown diamond startups have the advantage that they are not beginning offline, but they are beginning online first and then going omni-channel. Also remember that diamonds are not just white diamonds. You have pink diamonds, blue diamonds, and black diamonds. In fact, one of the most popular diamonds on the True Diamond store is their range of black diamonds, which is called blacklisted by True Diamonds. To answer this question, we need to first understand the macro picture. The macro picture is the Indian jewelry market. As of 2025, the Indian jewelry market is approximately an $80 billion a year market. Now, India has a love for gold, so 60% of this market belongs to gold jewelry. Diamond sits at only 10%. If you think India is crazy about gold with a 60% gold jewelry market share, China is even crazier than us with a 77% market share for gold. But when you look at other countries, for example the USA is less crazy about gold but absolutely crazy about diamonds. For the US jewelry industry, 63% market share belongs to diamonds. So now that we've understood India's fine jewelry market, let's look at the diamond jewelries. So diamond jewelry is 10% of India's total jewelry market size. From this, as of today, lab-grown diamonds is about 10% of the diamond market, so 1% of the total jewelry market in India. We expect the total jewelry market in India to be growing at 10% per annum for the next few years. But we also expect that lab-grown diamonds will only grow at about 14 to 15% per annum. And there are two ways for us to interpret this now. Now, from a consumer lens, the hesitance to adopt lab-grown diamonds is linked with the fact that our mindset in India is that jewelry is purchased at the time of an occasion, but it is not purchased for the occasion. The jewelry is purchased as an heirloom or as a store of value. And because the price of gold has historically risen, and in fact, in the last few years, the price of gold has appreciated faster than the Nifty or any comparable index in India. India has about 22% of household net worth in gold as compared to a global average of about 2 to 3%. And especially in the last few years, with this 15 times price decline in the cost of lab-grown diamonds, consumer trust that they can purchase the lab-grown diamond and its value won't change is almost completely eroded. And therefore, the preference for purchasing lab-grown diamond jewelry is not as strong in India. A lot of India's diamond industry, it's family-owned small artisanal businesses producing diamond jewelry for a small set of loyal clientele who have been with them potentially for multiple decades. Now remember that India has a monopoly over cutting, polishing and processing of natural diamonds. But when it comes to lab-grown diamonds, the key question to ask oneself is, the lab-grown diamond will be grown in the lab to the specification of the use case. And therefore it means that the amount of exporting of raw diamonds coming to India, at least in a lab-grown use case, is not going to be the same as what it is for natural diamonds. At the same time, because lab-grown diamonds are almost indistinguishable with the naked eye, almost every jewelry selling business needs to invest in far more expensive equipment to be able to assure themselves and their customers that the diamond being procured is indeed a natural diamond and not a lab-grown diamond. Incurring huge capex on expensive gemological equipment is most likely going to be a death knell for a lot of businesses where presumably the owner is already struggling to convince their children, their next generation, to come join them. Because lab-grown diamonds are at a much lower cost as compared to natural diamonds, the amount of money that can be spent on processing lab-grown diamonds is much lower than the amount that can be spent on processing natural diamonds. The result of this is that if there is any human intervention required on lab-grown diamonds, it would have to be done in a very quick factory-style production process and not a slow artisanal process, which will of course result in elimination of some jobs, but it will also result in the wage per employee to also decline. And therefore, I am a little worried about the impact on the business side of the Indian diamond industry due to the prevalence of lab-grown diamonds globally. Especially because most of the diamonds that we end up processing in India are being consumed overseas. And when you look at markets like the US, a decade ago, lab-grown diamonds were unheard of. And today in the USA, exactly a decade later, 30% of diamonds sold are lab-grown diamonds and 10% of the value of all diamonds sold is lab-grown diamonds. So let's now come to the conclusion of today's breakdown. As of today, in June 2025, I cannot tell you how severe the impact of natural diamonds is going to be on India's natural diamond industry. But what I can guarantee you is that in a few years, as long as you tune into Breakdown, we will revisit today's breakdown and come back to you with a more informed answer on what has been the impact of lab-grown diamonds on India's natural diamond industry. That's all from us at Breakdown. Hope you have a lovely day. Bye.